Am I panicked about the fire, or am I being brave for everyone else?
Hi everyone, and welcome to Priority Holder, and today we'll be playing Blue-Green Prison Merfolk in the Timeless format. Now this is like a classic Merfolk strategy where slamming lords like Mistbinder, Master of the Pearl Trident, Hexcatcher, so we're trying to crash in with the overstated creatures. But we also have a prison element to this deck since we're running Harbinger of the Seas, which can lock out those non-basic heavy mana bases. And there's not a ton of 1-mana Merfolk I like on Arena, at least until we get something like Cursecatcher. So it makes it a natural Chalice of the Void deck as like another prison element, so we can lock people out. And this deck can really weaponize Chrome Mox by rushing out like a turn 1 Chalice or like a turn 2 Harbinger. And we can make up the cards lost with stuff like Collected Company or Silvergill, and we can even possibly stifle some fetches with Tidebinder, so let's get fishy. This is a pretty great hand. Double Cavern makes me feel pretty nice, like if it's like a Psychic Frog deck we're facing. We see the Lurrus Companion, we don't know much else besides that, but going to just lead on Cavern. There is an argument for leading for Glasspool Mimic tapped right there, but depends on how much we flood out, we might actually want to cast that. Alright, the opponent has a turn 1 Ragavan. Doesn't appear like Cavern's going to be super useful at the moment. We're just going to play the Forest and pass. Ragavan, I'm scared enough of it that I'm going to just flash in a Hexcatcher to chump block, or just to trade with it. So we'll have to see if the opponent plays anything nasty. Okay, so they put a Goblin Bombardment on the stack. So we could counter this by flashing in a Hexcatcher and sacrificing it to Force Spike it. And as bad as Bombardment can be for us, I think Ragavan's actually worse right now. So, gonna flash in Hexcatcher and trade it off with the Ragavan. Ragavan just starts making them treasures, potentially gets them cards. Like, it can just run away with the game. So we'll happily take that trade. And this is why you hold on to the Glasspool Mimic, because if you start drawing a bunch of lands, you're gonna want all the spells you can get. So do we hold up Sink into Stupor to try and like return a Johnny to the opponent's hand potentially, or do we play, you know, Mistbinder and a tap land? Or you hold up Hexcatcher, you know, so there's a lot of things you could do. Decide just to play tap land Mistbinder and move on from there. Because, you know, if like Sink into Stupor, bouncing in a Johnny, like on like their turn 3 just doesn't even seem like an amazing play at all. Alright, so Elegant Parlor from the opponent. Surveilling away a land and Guide of Souls. Okay, so no Johnny yet, and they could be holding up like Galvanic Discharge or Bolt or Swords or something like that, which makes like just going for like a Glasspool here a little risky, because if they kill our only target, then Glasspool just fizzles. So definitely not going to Glasspool right here. Am going to attack in. Chances are we may not be blocking anyway, depending how much energy they can generate their next turn, so might as well crash in for some damage. And decide to hold up Hexcatcher. We could have, you know, cast it to deal a little more damage, but just want to keep the surprise factor. Okay, so opponent has sort of or they're playing a very patient game. So now this is a very good no attack from the opponent. They obviously have played against Merfolk before, because a lot of people be like, oh, get the free 1 damage, but they know we have flash threats and already a Lord in play. So I like that no attack from them. That was a good read. So we're going to play the Hexcatcher and just get our Surveil land. We do not have a lot of fetchable targets in this deck, because we're just planning on having Harbinger turn them all into islands. Master of the Pearl Trident is pretty nice. I mean, that's going to allow us to like just keep stacking up lords and applying a ton of pressure. We could also play Glasspool and Master of the Pearl Trident this turn to like really go wild on our lords. So we're going to lead with Master of the Pearl Trident. I think it's better at this point just to hold up Sink into Stupor though, because we're starting to really pull ahead. So we're going to crash in with the lords and just hoping that one of them doesn't get removed. Okay, so the opponent opts to just take the damage. Or maybe not, they're going to crack their fetch. Okay, so they're one of the energy decks that's playing black. Usually it's like Bowmasters. Okay, so they're going to surveil away an extra bombardment. And we knocked them to 8, and like, that's, or, you know, if we slam like a Harbinger, then we have a bunch of unblockable creatures thanks to Master. So we just got to try and dodge something like really nasty right here. Alright, so here's an Ajani. So Sink into Stupor, while it's on the stack, does nothing except just tax them for 2 more mana. So I'm trying to think like, okay, like, do I bounce Ajani, right? You know, like,
Nothing is more
there's nothing super great that it can do right now. Like, they're going to get their energy, and if we attempt to bounce the token, they already have the Goblin Bombardment to just auto-transform the Ajani. So, just going to sort of let it happen. Okay, so what they're doing here is directing one of the damage at our Hexcatcher, and they're hoping to flip Ajani and deal the other 2 with its 0 mode. So Hexcatcher is going to take 1 damage here, and that's their plan, is to make the cat token and then damage it. So what I'm going to do is bounce the Guide of Souls right here, because that's going to put them, you know, down to 1 damage off Ajani's trigger. And so it's either going to have to force them to Goblin Bombardment to deal the necessary damage, or just let Guide of Souls go to hand. So they are going to sacrifice Guide of Souls so that Ajani's trigger can deal the last point of damage to kill our Hexcatcher. But that was very costly for them to take our creature down. Okay, then they play Luris, but they're out of mana to replay something. Alright, another Mistbinder is pretty nice. So going to play Mistbinder, obviously, and it seems like now or never, like just load up on the Lords. Going to play another Master of the Pearl Trident right here, just because that means they're giving each other Island Walk, so if we draw a Harbinger next turn, we can cruise in for unblockable. Now, as dangerous as Ajani is, I think it's actually better to send them both at the life total right here. They're going to just block 1 and keep Luris around to bring something back. But we want to trim their creature count down. It just doesn't seem profitable to try and kill Ajani because Luris can just bring it back and they can flip it again. It just doesn't do anything. So they're going to play a Guide of Souls, and I'm like bracing for impact, like please, no more, like, because if they just play like another Ajani right here, like they're going to start frying our Lords. Okay, so they're going to send Ajani's damage upstairs. They actually don't have enough to kill any of our Lords. And they're crashing with Luris because they actually have 3 energy to send it to the skies with Guide of Souls. So that's going to lock in 5 points of life gain. But they're in a pretty precarious spot right here against all of our Lords. And we draw a Sink into Stupor. So I'm trying to think, like, you know, based on how they played, like, alright, do they have like a removal spell to try and blow out like an attack right here? I decide, you know, probably the safest thing to do is to bounce the token. We want to bounce token or Guide of Souls because then that's 15 points of damage unblocked. And they can Goblin Bombard, send it somewhere, but basically they have to have a removal spell here or they just die. So we're going to send all of our Merfolk at them. And right now they have to have something or else they're just dead, and they pack it in. So that was an awesome win against Energy. Just goes to show you how just stacking a bunch of Lords can like really go wild. This is a pretty crazy hand. Double Chrome Mox. So the question is what to do. So I'm going to stick a Mistbinder under. It's just nice when your Chrome Mox is tapped for both your colors. And you know, it is giving up one of our Lords, but like if we slam a Harbinger anytime soon, then we have our green mana taken care of already. So I decided to stick Glasspool under there. I just wanted to like keep our more impactful cards, like, and then there's a Cavern, so that's perfect. So we get the land anyway. So keeping the Silvergill Adepts to try and like recoup the card advantage we were losing off our Chrome Moxes. Okay, so fetch land on the other side. Basically perfect scenario. So uncracked fetch land means that Tishana's Tidebinder is going to be able to just whammy them. So, but we drew a Chalice of the Void, which is super tempting to play that while it's basically only like a Spell Pierce that can save them from, or like a Spell Snare, I guess. But I think it's better to get them with Tishana's Tidebinder because this fetch could be holding like their colors together right here. Not to mention it's like a brutal Stone Rain. So going to Tidebinder their fetch activation and hope to like draw land and go well, I guess if we draw a land, we can't play Bull Spell, but we want to play Chalice ASAP at this point. Alright, so the opponent plays Basic Mountain. Galvanic Discharge. So it seems like an energy deck. And then the opponent just packs it in. So we must have like color screwed them with that fetch Stifle. So that just goes to show how fast this deck can win. We can get them like turn 1 Chalices or like turn 2 Harbingers. Like there's some pretty nice things this deck can do. So Hedge Maze, we have no information about what the opponent's doing. And it's the question of whether we want Master of the Pearl Trident. And it seems like we do, considering how much like just nice action we have. Alright, red-green land from the opponent. Question is what to play. I think it's pretty clear we play Silvergill Adept, and as we're lining up that card draw, if you like the fish people, please Merfolk Trickster like button. And yeah, we're going to reveal a Merfolk Trickster. Alright, our Silvergill is going to eat a lightning bolt. We're perfectly fine with that. Alright, Cavern is really nice. Alright, opponent plays Forest and passes. So I mean, I'm going to attempt to try and lock them out right here. Like, we know they have Lightning Bolt. Like, they could float red and take care of it. But we're going to attempt to slam Harbinger and lock them out of red. And so, if Harbinger sticks, this could get pretty nasty for the opponent. But they have a perfect answer in Fury. And I don't know if you saw it, but they actually pitched a Stone Rain into Fury. So that's going to re-unlock the red for them. And then we get a taste of our own medicine here by getting Blood Mooned. Now, all is not lost because we have Chrome Moxes, so like we can still get out of this, but that's still a really bad situation. And I actually, I play a ton of different prison decks, so I'll link a Ponza deck of my own right here. It's obviously what we're playing against right now. So I'm going to hang on and hope to spike a Chrome Mox. We do not run very many islands because we're all in on Chrome Moxes, so we're like upping our MDFC count. And there's a Chrome Mox, so this can get us back into it. But the opponent is going to be able to... The opponent has a big advantage right now. And one problem is that every card we have at the moment is double blue. So we are one step closer to casting something, but we're not quite there yet. And I'm thinking it's best to hold on to Sink into Stupor. Like, if we can somehow get the second blue source, it'd be nice to like end step, bounce the Blood Moon, and like empty our hand. But the opponent must have a stacked hand because they just... Obviously they pitched the Aspear Blood Moon, but they pitched a Fury also. So, doesn't bode well for a chance. And they're just going to hard cast a Fury. So, Fury is like a really fast clock. There's a Chalice, which... honestly wouldn't have done much against them. Like, we saw a Bolt, but they have a lot of 3 mana value spells. So this is me just checking, it's rapidly going downhill for us. So we're just going to play the Chalice and then pass, locked with a bunch of double blue spells in hand. So we basically need to wiggle our way out of this right now, or else Reflections is just going to start making Fury copies. So Silvergill Adept is something because that can allow us to like, well, unless it's like an extra copy of Fury off the Reflection, so we're just gonna see what we draw off the Silvergill and reveal a Master of the Pearl Trident. And yeah, that's a brick. So at first I pass, but yeah, we just lose that one. So that's tough, but we move on to the next game. This one's a one-lander. It seems too risky. This is another one-lander. It seems like we can do better than this. And we can get these awkward hands because we are running sort of a low land count. This one is much better. So the question is it worth... So this is a mulligan to 5. Is it worth keeping a Chrome Mox when we're already down so many cards? But the Chrome Mox buys us a lot of speed, So... I decide it probably is worth it, so I'm going to put those two back, and we'll have Chrome Mox probably tucking Mistbinder and Cavern of Souls. So now we could play like a little safer and hold up Hexcatcher. I'm trying to decide, is it better to play Master or to hold up Hexcatcher? I decided it's better to hold up Hexcatcher because if they open with a Thoughtseize, actually, that's still pretty bad, no matter what with Thoughtseize, they're going to get something. So I guess it's more to stop like a crazy turn 1 Dark Ritual start. So, alright, the opponent's going to crack Bloodstained Mire. Red white land, okay. And they're going to pass to us. Alright, so we're just going to flash out Hexcatcher. Could be energy, but usually energy has like Giganther or Loris' companion, so we'll have to see. Alright, and they're going to actually play with Fire our face, just not even caring about the Lord. And the fact that it's a play with fire lends me to believe that it's a burn deck that we're facing. And the fact they didn't point it at the Lord, like they're just going to try and hunt our life total. So we're going to play Master and smash in for 2 damage and see what is in store for us. Alright, there's a Bolt Wave. So very clearly facing against burn at this point. And are they going to try and kill one of our creatures? Because we do have like... Okay, so there's a Lightning Bolt. So we can just let it kill the Master. I decide it's better to keep the larger creature in play. So I'm going to counter it, sacrificing Hexcatcher just to keep the bigger... And then we draw a Chalice of the Void, which is absolutely incredible. Now, the opponent has already used a lot of 1-mana spells, but considering it's a burn deck, this should shut down like a ton of their cards. So feeling incredible about that Chalice draw right here. Alright, so the opponent plays a tap land. Now there are like, so yeah, two mana burn spells, so we just eat a Boros Charm right there, and there's like Skull Crack and stuff like that, so the opponent still may be able to go the distance, but we've severely hampered them with that Chalice. Okay, and they have a Barbarian Ring, so that may be in their interest to feed into the Chalice anyway, just to hit Threshold, so... Alright, Light Up the Stage is awesome. It does not get got by Chalice. And they draw 2 1-drops, which is pretty great. So they're going to Monastery into the Chalice, which gets got. I don't think they were really intending to do that, but it does get them Threshold for Barbarian Ring at the cost of a life, though. So that is pretty tough. So they're going to crack Mishra's Bauble. They're desperately hunting for something, and they just pack it in. So a nice Chalice lock to finish off burn on a mulligan to 5, so that was pretty sweet. Alright, this is another turn 1 Chalice hand. It would be turn 1 Chalice, turn 2 Harbinger if we only had an untapped land. So that is a little unfortunate. I mean, we'll have to see what we draw, but definitely going to turn 1 Chalice and hope to draw the untapped land for turn 2 Harbinger, and that's lights out for like a ton of different decks. So and that's it for this opponent. So I can't get enough of Chalice of the Void. Like, I have plenty of decks that play Chalice, so I love the prison decks. And, you know, with Chrome Mox now, we get some even earlier lockouts, so we don't even know what the opponent was playing. We're going to play the tap land. This could be a turn 2 Chalice, barring, like, Thoughtseize ripping it from us. Okay, or anytime you see an unorthodox or a large number of MDFCs on the other side, you have alarm bells have to go off for Goblin Charbelcher. So we already see the opponent has 1 MDFC, and so we're going to play Chalice on 1, just like we planned. And the opponent has another MDFC. So there's this deck that I've seen before, and Thunder Trap Trainer comes down, which is going to allow them to grab a non-creature, and they find a Chrome Mox. So there's actually like a mono blue Belcher deck that itself plays Harbinger of the Seas. And so Harbinger is not going to be good this matchup. In fact, they probably also play it, and it's going to make all their lands come into play untapped. So Harbinger is actually a liability right now, especially because it shuts off our own Cavern of Souls, which may be useful against the running like mana drains and stuff like that. So this is me struggling to figure out what to do. Like, we need more lands to like start firing off Cocos and stuff. Not to mention that if they are a Charbelcher deck, they could try and slam one right now. So that's why I want to hold up Vodalian Hexcatcher to possibly counter a Charbelcher. Now, Narset is pretty bad for us as well, so I think it is worth it to Hexcatcher here. And because we already have Silvergill in hand, like, we want to be able to draw a couple cards. We're not like super heavy card draw deck, but Narset will still be difficult, and it's going to be able to dig them for a bunch of cards. So we're going to take down Narset. They're going to crash in with the trainer. So we're going to hope to try and like surveil a land to the top to lock, you know, get a collected company. All right, so it's a Chrome Mox, which would allow a collected company, but at the cost of one of our spells. So I end up just surveilling it away. I really much rather hit a land. Okay, there's a Cavern of Souls, which is excellent. Once again, it doesn't seem like the matchup for Harbinger. So knowing that they could run Mana Drain, I'm just going to attempt to Coco right now while hopefully their shields are down. So, but it looks like the opponent actually has a response, and these kind of decks can run Flare of Denial to good, like Thunder Trap Trainer grabbing Flare of Denial like helps them cover combos and stuff like that. So that is in fact what happens. Flare of Denial eating our collected company. So shields down moment from us. All right, and the opponent misses a land drop, or they're holding up like Sink into Stupor. So we have options, and once again, I'm still sort of worried about Charbelcher. Maybe we should just play Silvergill there, uncounterable. Alright, so opponent finds a land and plays it tapped, and they're passing. And so I think I make a mistake right here. Like, I know I have to put pressure on them, and so I go with the uncounterable Tidebinder. The problem is, like, that's like our ace in the hole against Charbelcher. Like, if they try and activate it, we can stifle it with that, and then it's an uncounterable stifle, and then it shuts down the Charbelcher. So I think, even though it likely would have eaten a Mana Drain, I still should have just cast Coco on their end step and just made them have it, basically. So going to Silvergill, revealing Harbinger, and then we draw a Chalice, which now I'm wondering if I should Chalice for 0 to shut down future Chrome Moxes from them. It would shut down ours as well, but we already have plenty of mana, so I am going to actually Chalice for 0 to possibly just slow down their mana development. Once again, holding on to Harbinger, because we already know they're running counter spells. And here is the Charbelcher, which is unfortunate. So I think, like I said, I think I got way too hasty. Like, should have kept the Tidebinder in hand, because that was just such a clean answer against Charbelcher. So that sucks. So basically, what has to happen is when they attempt to activate Charbelcher, we need to Coco into a Tidebinder to stifle it. So like that's the only hope at this point. So alright, so they're going to activate Charbelcher, firing off Collected Company. But the thing about this deck is that they run Commandeer to great effect because of all the MDFCs they have. And so they take our Coco, and then we are going to just lose to the Charbelcher. So that was really tough. I think that was winnable thanks to like Hexcatchers and Tidebinders. I made that mistake, and the opponent capitalized. So on to the next game though. Alright, so opponent has some response. Okay, so they have Once Upon a Time in response to our Chrome Mox. And grabbing Field of the Dead, okay. Going to put a Sink into Stupor under it, and just lead it to Silvergill just to try and, like, once again, those are there to try and recoup cards from Chrome Mox. And because they're just nice. Alright, Chalice of the Void. There is an argument for playing it for 0 there, but the fact that they're Once Upon a Timing for Field of the Dead does not make me think they're a Chrome Mox deck. Alright, Arboreal Grazer's gonna presumably put Field of the Dead into play. Yeah, so Field of the Dead enters. And it's becoming clear we're facing probably against a Primetime deck. So the question is what to do next. So we have... I decide... we don't want Grazer to be able to block forever, so I decide Master of the Pearl Trident's pretty nice here, because that's going to allow Silvergill to attack through the Grazer. And these decks sometimes run natural order, so we don't want them to be able to just, if we want them, if they have to block, to lose their creature. So, alright, opponent's going to crack their fetch. And they're up to 3 different land names, and there's Kami of Bamboo Groves. Let's see what else. Alright, so then they have a red-green desert, and then Aftermath Analyst. So we have to see what it mills. Alright, so they have a couple of fetch lands in the graveyard, and they're going to pass to us. Chalice just doesn't really do it. Like, they've already played so many 1-mana spells. Like, it would have been nice earlier, and it doesn't seem prudent to, like, Chalice for one. So I'm going to attack here. Like, they can double block and kill it, but we just need to keep pressuring them as best we can. And I think we have to hold up Tidebinder here, because Field of the Dead is really close to getting enough land names, especially now that they have a 5th one. And, like, if they're able to get those fetches into play with Aftermath Analyst, that could be really, really bad for us. Alright, so opponents just sort of flooded, it looks like. Alright, so there's another Field of the Dead. So they got all their sort of extra land drop creatures. And they still can crack Aftermath Analyst to put 2 fetches into play, which might be able to get the Field of the Dead online. So I feel like I just have to keep holding up Tishana's Tidebinder at this point. We only have one good attack. The opponent, since they have so many spare creatures, yeah, so they're just going to double block with the Kamis and take down our Silvergill, which really sucks because they still can block for days against our Master of the Pearl Trident. Once again, Harbinger is an amazing draw in this matchup. It just utterly shuts them down. So really hoping for Harbinger of the Tides. I mean, they do have a couple basics, but it shuts down field. Alright, so opponent's going to hardcast Flare of Cultivation. And there's nothing we can really do about it. So basically, okay, so they actually still just have green lands. To me, it seems like in a field deck, especially running Flare of Cultivation, you probably want, like, you know, at least one, you know, off forest basic to try and, like, hit your types for field deck. So somehow they have that many lands in play, they still haven't hit their types. Now the nice thing is that they actually went under the 4 mana to crack Aftermath Analyst, so it allowed me to sneak a Merfolk Trickster into the battlefield. Testing to see if they block, but they go ahead and block, and we chunk in for a little bit of damage, and then it's back to holding up Tidebinder. So we have infinite Tidebinders to try and stifle stuff, but the opponent, if they find another Aftermath Analyst, then we're like going to be really pinched on mana. So, alright, so they're being very patient. Alright. Hexcatcher. It would be nice to actually draw some more lands to start being able to hold up like multiple spells. But we are able to just keep pressuring them. So we're going to send in with Trickster. Alright, they're just going to chump with an Arboreal Grazer. So we've pressured the life total really well, but we just have to keep holding up the Tidebinder. We do not want Field of the Dead to turn on. Like, that's going to be just real tough for us to battle through. Another Field of the Dead. And opponent is just being patient. We have to just keep being patient also. Like, if we attempt to flash in a Tidebinder, they can crack the Aftermath Analyst and get the land types they need for field. So going to crash in with both of them. If only we had enough mana to flash in a Hexcatcher here and eat the Analyst, but we've still got them to 6 despite, you know, not really, despite missing so many land drops. Alright, so there's the natural order. Okay, so they didn't even bother cracking Analyst. They're going into natural order. Way too much mana to flash in Hexcatcher, even if we sacrificed all our creatures. So they got the prime time. Now, this is the beauty of Tishana's Tidebinder. We're going to actually stifle Primeval Titan's trigger, so they still aren't going to hit the Field of the Dead requirement, because we blocked them from getting the lands. Better than that is they're at 6, and we have a ton of power on the board, so we can just flash in our Merfolk Trickster, tap down the Titan, and just attack in for lethal. These type of decks don't run much removal, so we take down the Primetime deck. So, wow, what an amazing battle that was. Okay, next game, and this is turn 1 Chalice. The opponent is going first, though, so we'll have to see if like a Thoughtseizes ruins our plan. The main question is, what do we tuck under? Okay, well, Chrome Mox from the other side of the battlefield. We'll have to see what's going on. Alright, so they tuck a Grief under it, which doesn't bode well for us if they have spare Griefs to just stick under Chrome Moxes. Alright, so they're going to play the Overlord of the Belmerk, and this is a really great hit. They have their choice of Grief and Solitude and Witch Enchanter, which are all like amazing hits. and they're going to grab Solitude and pass to us. Now, there's been an influx with Ketramos hitting the format. I've been battling against a lot more black-white scam or black-white blink decks, and so let me know like if you're interested in seeing me try and make one of those. It's very popular in Modern right now, but in Timeless we still have Grief and stuff like that. So we have like Chrome Mox, so we can really go wild with that strategy. But let me know if you're interested in seeing my take on that. I'm still going to Chalice for 1 here. We did see a Dark Ritual in their graveyard, and so we know at least hit something. Still not feeling amazing about our situation right now, because anyway, we just need some lands to get Coco into play and just get some action. Now this is a card I'm not super familiar with. This is a Dedicated Doll Maker, an alchemy card, but basically I let them exile a permanent and like put like a token version of it into play. So they essentially converted their enchantment overlord right away into a token creature version of it. So not only are they getting the ETB again, already the overlord's gonna be able to start attacking us next turn. So they can either put a white card into hand to have pitch fodder for Solitude, or they can grab like Grief, which they grab the Grief to try and shred our hand. And the thing about Ketramos is that it can basically recoup all the it can help you recover from the card disadvantage of pitch casting, Griefs, and Solitudes and stuff like that. So they're going to Grief us, and it'll be interesting to see what they take. Alright, so they take I like that choice from them, because that takes a land drop from us, and that makes it Collected Company a lot less likely to land. But we are like miles behind right now. The opponent has 7 power in play. Like, we can slam like a 2/2, but like it's just looking pretty bleak right now, especially because Overlord is just going to keep like the fuel going. So nice synergies the opponent has going on. So the opponent has a lot going on. So they have Saint Elenda and Sorin, and it looks pretty bad for us, the fact that they put Saint Elenda into hand. So they have sort of like a scam deck, but they also have the Sorin Saint Elenda thing going on, and yeah, we're just super dead right here. Saint Elenda's going to grab something from her spellbook, get to free cast it, and like we're just going to be facing like 20 power creatures. And then curious about what they did grab though. Yeah, and they grabbed one of the disenchants. So yeah, we are super dead. We're going to move on to the next one. And turn 1 Chalice didn't do anything last time, but let's see if it does something this time. Going to stick, there is an argument for sticking Coco under it. I don't love sticking Coco because we have so many double blue cards, and it's a way to help us like regain like the cards we give up for Chrome Moxes. So gonna hold on to Collected Companies because we have so many double blue cards, and turn 1 Chalice does it for this opponent also. So it never gets old. It never gets old. We'll definitely take that, and you could see Timeless has sort of shifted. It's a lot more like there's a lot more non-games. We're proudly contributing to some of those non-games, but I've gotten wrecked by like turn 1 Dark Rituals into like crazy stuff way more often. Once again, MDFC alert on the other side of the battlefield. We have to see. All right, there's a Strike it Rich. So that is often seen in Phoenix, but then we see another MDFC, and so now I'm like, okay, this might be a Charbelcher matchups, but I'm gonna still Chalice for 1. I mean, like, it stops their Strike it Riches and possibly other stuff also. So, but the opponent slams a Blood Moon, and I'm just like, oh man, not again. So that is really tough. Once again, it's not lights out for us because of Chrome Mox. So going to just play a land here. Like, it does definitely lock us out for now. If we can, and they're just gonna play another Blood Moon, which sure, like we're looking for Chrome Moxes, so we don't really care about Blood Moons stacking up. Though it does sort of mess up our plan of maybe bouncing one of them with Sink into Stupor. So we're gonna pass. Doesn't make sense to Chalice for 0. Like, that's just gonna lock ourselves out. Fable the Mirror Breaker is really tough. as we see that we're facing a mono red like prison deck, I'll link one of my mono red prison decks right here if you're interested in more of that action. That one I'm linking uses God Pharaoh's Gift. Now we did finally find a Chrome Mox. The question is what to tuck under it, because we need both blue and green mana. So I'm going to tuck Mistbinder because that will make Collected Company a live draw for us also. The question is, do we just play like a Silvergill and start trying to dig for more Chrome Moxes? Or do we hold up Tidebinder or Hexcatcher? I guess there is an argument for stifling that trigger. Alright, they have Bone Crusher Giant. Good to know because that can cause us some problems. So, alright, the Goblin Shaman's coming into attack. Considering that's possibly a Charbelcher deck is like why I'm like really wanting to hold up Hexcatcher. Alright. Loving this prison battle right here. Opponent is also packing Chalice of the Void. They're trying to lock us out on Chalice for 2. So we're going to counter that with Hexcatcher, and boy are we glad we did, because our Cavern of Souls are doing nothing for us now. So we're gonna counter their Chalice, and this is just good clean magic right here. You know, prison versus prison, and this is the only island we play. So this is a miracle right here, a miracle island which unlocks our double blue stuff. So it seems pretty clear here to play Silvergill and hold up Tishana's Tidebinder. So going to do that and just try and, you know, just keep the cards front. Once again, really hoping for like a Collected Company to like get a Harbinger in play, because it'll have a later time step than the Blood Moons, and we can turn all their sources into islands. So I did not stifle the reflection there, and I think that might have been a misplay. I think stifling the flip would have been pretty nice. Like, I was, you know, once again, this is a Charbelcher deck potentially, which could be pretty bad for us. The opponent is trying again with Chalice for 2. We don't have a means of stopping right now, so that is unfortunate. And yeah, I really should have just stifled the reflections flip, and then we could have had a 3-2 and anyway, would have been a lot better for us. Not to mention Stomp would have been blocked by their own Chalice. So Breeding Pool, like, we're just gonna keep playing our lands, and we're locked out of our 2 mana spells, of which we have a lot. But the thing is, 3 mana is still gained. So Sink into Stupor can lift the Chalice momentarily for us to like play some spells under it. And Collected Company is like still like our best draw. But I'm really worried about Goblin Charbelcher. Now this is tough. So the opponent's playing excellent right here. So they've identified Chrome Mox as one of our ways to get out. So they're chalicing for 0 to shut down all of our future Chrome Moxes. And they're going to cast a 1 ring right here. So going to, you know, we can't do anything about it, so we're gonna let it hit. And I'm going to stifle the ring protection here. I think I should have waited to maybe stifle the card draw opponent, because we don't really care about the ring protection at the moment. And right now, their ring loses all abilities. So it would have been better to stifle the card draw, but it's not clear they would have drawn it on their turn. They could have played around it. So they attack with reflection. The thing is, like, Tishana's Tidebinder is going to kill them faster than the reflection will kill us. And so we have Cavern right now, but if you play it, it will not have a creature type associated with it. And I sort of want to have all the uncounterableness we can muster. But the thing is, like, there's so many Blood Moons, like, it's sort of hopeless to try and bounce all of them. This is really tough right here. Sundering Eruption is going to attack our basic island. So the opponent's tightening the vice grip on us, and we have one more basic, but it's not a very useful one. And as we pull out that basic, let me know in the comments, do you have any other ideas for prison decks I should try out? I have even more. Let me know what you want to see. So the thing is, I thought about this for a while. There's a strong argument for chalicing for 3 right here to lock out a lot of their stuff, such as Seasoned Pyromancer. And the thing is, that gets rid of Sink into Stupor as an out for us. So basically it's Coco or bust if we Chalice for 3, but it also like really slows them down. But you could see it's basically over now. The opponent did end up pitching a Charbelcher. So let's say we Chalice for 3 there, they slam Charbelcher, that's game over. So I think this game just broke sort of tough for us. And I could see situations where we can win this matchup, though. If they're running stuff like Fury, then that makes it real hard for us. But we're going to try and go for a moral victory in Chalice for 3. So right now, we have double Blood Moons and Chalices for 0, 1, 2, and 3 on the battlefield. This is awesome right here. If only we had our Cavern of Souls just to play through the Chalices. But yeah, the opponent at this point could just keep making reflection copies of Seasoned Pyro. And we eat one of the... So, small moral victory for us right there. But it makes you wonder how this game would have turned out different had we stifled the reflections flip. The opponent might not have had much action, though we did know they had, like, at some point they would have slammed Charbelcher, and that might have done it. So, the opponent, frankly, has too much right now. Everything we could play would be countered, and so we're just going to pack it in. But it's always fun playing against fellow prison players. Alright, double Chalice hand. This is a turn 2 Chalice. Drawing Chrome Mox would be incredible. The opponent is going first. So, going to probably turn 2 Chalice, turn 3 hopefully Harbinger. So we'll have to see what happens. Alright, turn 1 Gilded Goose from the opponent. Alright, Merfolk Mistbinder. Going to pass and see what's in store for us. Alright, opponent has a fetch land. They're going to crack it. Once again, Chrome Mox is still an amazing draw for us right here to try and accelerate towards Collected Company. Alright, Basking Brood Scale from the other side. And at first I was thinking, like, oh, this is like an Eldrazi mid-range deck, you know, or something like that. So I'll link an Eldrazi mid-range deck that what I was thinking we were playing against. So we're going to Chalice for 1. We know it does stop Gilded Gooses, possibly something else. However, this is not an Eldrazi mid-range deck that we're facing against, which I learned this turn. This is a Rosy Cotton combo deck, which actually goes infinite with Basking Brood Scale. And so, yeah, that's it. We're dead. So move on to the next game. And this one I was talking about earlier, like how there's way more non-games right now, so makes you wonder if Timeless needs like Force and Negation at this point. Would be also nice because it would help hunt Show and Tell out of the metagame. So it does seem like it's just a matter of time until we get it from some of the things the arena devs have said. So we'll have to see. Got an uncounterable Merfolk though. We're gonna play Master of the Pearl Trident. And could be very strong this game if the opponent has blue lands. Alright, opponent goes Basic Island into Brainstorm. Probably putting back some counter spells, having seen a Cavern. And let's see if they drop something right here. Chrome Mox. And let's see what they tuck under it. Let's put a Brainstorm under it. And see if they're going to pass with like Bowmasters up or something. Alright, they're getting a Black Source and a Psychic Frog. Okay. And they play Phantasmal Shield deck. This is another like Alchemy kind of card that basically always get you some cards. Oh, I guess it's not Alchemy, it's Foundations. Hadn't seen it before, but it's an interesting card to go in a Lurrus deck. So, going to just hold up Tidebinder, Trickster, or Hexcatcher and sort of see where it takes us. So, it is possible to Trickster and tap down the Psychic Frog to deny them an attack. I just sort of forgot and just let it attack, but then I'm like, wait a second, I could take its abilities away. So basically it puts the opponent in a tough position. So if we Tidebinder it now, it's still going to be attacking, but it will lose all of its abilities. And so the opponent is then faced with the choice, and once again, they can't counter this because of Cavern. I guess Sink into Stupor could stop it, but... So So now the opponent has to choose right now how many cards they want to pitch into Psychic Frog. And so they're going to pitch at least one. So I'm sure they want it to survive a Trickster block, but the question is, do they want it to survive the double block? So I'm like watching intently, like, all right, like how far are they going to go on this? Because they could pitch their whole hand, or they could try and make it so we have to double block and they can kill something. Pitching a Treasure Cruise right here is crazy. Like, that could really recoup the cards. So the opponent decides to go all in on the frog. I love the boldness. Now, they don't draw a card because we took its abilities away, but they created a 5/6 frog, which will be pretty problematic for us, especially since the graveyard is so stocked that they can give it flying like on demand. We don't need the fetch at this point. We do have land number 4 locked up for Coco. There's Chalice, which is amazing against Loris decks, but it seems like in the shields down moment, we really want to try and stick a Collected Company, especially because we could hit Harbinger and lock them out of Loris right now, because they only have... Well, I guess Loris is already locked at the moment because they only have 1 black source. So yeah, maybe it is better to Chalice for 1 and then Hexcatcher. Yeah, I don't know. The thing is, we're just dying to Psychic Frog, so I felt a little bit of urgency right here. So there's Harbinger, and we could Trickster tap down something, but it seems like just grabbing Harbinger to lock out their mana and Mistbinder to open up some attacks seems like the way to go. Now, Master is giving us Island Walk right now, so Trickster can't be blocked. And I'm hesitating right here because if they block with their 1/3, they're going to get to draw a card, and I really don't want them to draw out of this or get more pitch fodder to Psychic Frog to like close us out in like 2 attacks instead of like 3 attacks right now. So, and yeah, so we've locked the opponent out of black, but the thing is, Psychic Frog is just a monster. You could see why it's so good. So they're going to crash in. Let's see if they actually pitch some more cards into it. Pitching Loris makes sense. It's a dead card. All right, they are going all in. All right, so we're dead next turn to a Psychic Frog attack, especially because they can give it flying super easily. So the opponent is at 12, and I'm trying to figure out what to do because Tidebinder can't stifle 1 activation of Psychic Frog's flying, but they can just do it again. They have so many cards in their graveyard. So, but the thing is, the opponent is almost dead themselves. So I'm attacking with everyone here, hoping they have nothing. Like they could counter right here if they have the mana drain because our caverns are shut down. Take the win right there. Well, that was super fun. Merfolk is a strategy that I've been tinkering with for a while, and like I just could never really get it to where I wanted to. Like I just kept losing to energy decks, and like just was never quite really powerful enough. But then once I identified it as a Chalice of the Void deck, big surprise, I'm looking for Chalice of the Void decks, it really helped it, and especially now that Chrome Mox is there, like it just allows you to like turbo out the lock pieces and harvest some free wins. And I think like it has way better energy matchup thanks to Chalice now, and can, you know, has enough shenanigans going on with like Hexcatcher being able to counter stuff and like Tidebinder being able to stifle stuff. Like you can wiggle your way out of some pretty tricky situations. So I like what we have going on here. You could see we struggled against the Blood Moon decks. Like we had to protect ourselves from our own moon effects. So like it gets a little tricky with the mana base, but I think it's still in a pretty good spot. You could see some of the stuff on the sideboard I was also considering. Flare Denial should always be like on your radar for these kind of decks, but I don't think it makes sense for Merfolk until we get a bunch of really good 1-drops, which we just frankly don't have right now in Arena. There are some Merfolk Lords on the sidelines, but I don't want to like overload. I think like having like, you know, stifling effect of Tidebinder is more powerful than like indexing even more on some Lords, and there's other Merfolk as well. But yeah, it's a fun deck. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you want to see even more nonsense, please consider subscribing. And if you're already subscribed, thank you for your support. Your engagement with the channel helps me know what the people want. Thank you.